Today we saw a change in mentality from Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri that I didn't recognise. A Piastri that was a lot more cute when it came to the first corner. A Piastri that almost seemed a bit scared, if you ask me, down into the first corner. Okay, it's not the first corner, it's technically the second, but Max Verstappen, as we know, swooped around the outside and took the race lead from Oscar Piastri after getting a subpar start. A tremendous move by Max, but is rightfully so getting the plaudits because it's very brave to go around the outside, especially of Oscar Piastri, and execute it so perfectly. Of course, it takes two to tango, and, well, Oscar Piastri afforded Max the room and wasn't the aggressive Oscar that I'm at least familiar with seeing. It's not the Oscar we saw in Miami 2 weeks ago. It's not the Oscar we saw back in Saudi Arabia down into the first corner. And this is where leading a championship is very different to when you're chasing. It's the same as a race, whether you're sim racing or racing in real life, no matter what the series. There is a different amount of pressure at the front than there is being behind. And Oscar today had a 16-point advantage heading into the race weekend over Lando, and even more so over Max Verstappen. And of course, that has now been reduced because of Norris finishing in P2 and Max finishing in P1 and Oscar finishing in third. But I think there was a missed opportunity here today for Oscar to comfortably win this race. We know that clean air is king, and well, Oscar started, and it was only a couple of laps, but he started to flounder a little bit on his tyre management, and that's what pushed him into that two-stop strategy. And of course, we know with the safety car at the end that he ended up on the very used and old hard tyre compared to Lando, who was on a fresh set of hards. And well, Max was also on a fresh set of hards, as they was able to take their tyres in that first stint a lot longer. But we know, as it has been throughout this season, dirty air is so prevalent, and that dash to the first corner and leading at the end of the first lap is so important, especially in the McLaren that we know arguably is the quickest in clean air. And Max today, at a track that we expected to be a bit more difficult to overtake because of the history at Imola, and thankfully due to the tyre selection of being one step softer than last year, well done Pirelli, credit where it's due, we had a much more interesting race in relation to strategy. But Oscar said it himself, he braked too early down into the first corner. He had it under control, he did, and then it was snatched away from him. And Oscar today realised that, of course, it's very different leading from the front than it is being the chaser, because there was not that aggressive nature that we saw from Oscar back in Miami and back in Saudi. He should have used the racing rules to his advantage and taken control of that inside liner and headed straight to the exit of turn 2 through to turn 3, that chicane, and left Max Verstappen no room whatsoever. Now, many will say to me, understandably, thinking of the long game, you don't want to crash. And I think McLaren have convinced Oscar that, probably reasonably so, that they thought they would have the better race car than Max. All the data suggested that. But in clean air, Max, as we know, is very good on his tyres. He's no slouch. And that Red Bull, with its updates this weekend, clearly made the Red Bull a much better car. I personally was expecting the tyres to fall off and have the similar issues that they had in Miami. But we didn't see that. In the clean air, Max was able to manage his tyres comfortably, and he managed the race as perfectly as he possibly could have done at the front, as we know he has done over many races in the past few seasons. But Oscar lost out on that opportunity. He clearly didn't want to risk a contact with Max. He knew, no doubt, that even if he managed to get ahead down into the first corner, Max was going to try and move around the outside. And that's exactly what he did. Now, maybe what potentially threw Oscar off was the fact George Russell had such a good run behind him. Actually, George had the best start out of Max and Piastri, but George was boxed in by Max Verstappen. He had nowhere to go. George was frustrated, but it's not Piastri's fault. Piastri is always going to tug that inside line, or hug that inside line, sorry. And Max saw the gap around the outside, he saw the grip and went for it. But Piastri should have shut the door. He should have shut that door. I tell you that now, Max Verstappen, there's no way, even if he's leading a championship, there is no way he's letting anyone of any team, of any caliber of driver, allowing them to take him round the outside. And I'll tell you what, many criticised Lando Norris when Oscar Piastri overtook him around the outside into that second chicane at Monza. I think this is of the same ilk. This is definitely of the same ilk. Now, Oscar wasn't leading the World Championship back then, and he could be more aggressive, same as Lando. But you had an opportunity here today to extend your championship lead by a further 7 points, at least over Lando Norris, and even further over Lando, because yes, Max winning today has only taken him still in P3. There's no change at the top of the driver's standings. Lando is still second. That gap has closed by 3 points now. So ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, Piastri is still leading, but these are the moments that you need to capitalise on. And well, Red Bull, if they're improving and you've got a Max Verstappen who gets a Red Bull that can outperform the McLaren, he is not going to let you off easy, is he? He is, with 17 race weekends remaining, going to score a whole heap of points. And you're going to look back at this moment and go, I should have taken that opportunity down into turn one. I should have been more aggressive. And I do wonder, as I mentioned, whether McLaren potentially told Piastri, just don't crash. Just avoid it. Just avoid it. We know McLaren is very risk averse. And I wonder if someone got in Piastri's head. And many will say, no, Piastri, he wouldn't have listened to anyone. He would have done his own thing. But I do wonder if he was convinced by the team around him. Look, the last thing you want to do is do what Lando did in Miami, where you lose all of those positions at the start. It's very possible that's the case. But being on the inside, even if there was contact, wheel-on-wheel contacts, Piastri would still be leading that race, and Max is the one who would be in Lando's position. And I still stand by it. There's no way in hell Max Verstappen would do what Oscar Piastri just did. He would be braking as late as possible and ensuring that he's ahead there and driving straight to the exit apex into turn 2, out of turn 2 into turn 3. So yeah, I wonder and hope Piastri learns from this, but it provided us an interesting race. I said I wanted Max to lead from the get-go, and I think the VSC actually robbed us a little bit of maybe a closer race up front with the McLarens, as that I was really intrigued to see how that two-stop strategy would converge out on track with Piastri and Verstappen. But look, sometimes you get the rub of the green. The McLarens have definitely had their fair share of safety car benefits, and well, this time around, while I think Max was always in control of this race, he thoroughly deserved and put himself in a position to benefit from that 10-second advantage of pitting under the VSC. And then he was never going to get caught by Piastri, who was going to hold Norris up for a few laps at the end of the race under safety car conditions. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. I understand, long game-wise, you're looking at the championship, and ultimately you've only lost 3 points, but it's going to be a tight championship this year. We know how close the performance of the cars are, and it's moments like this where you need to capitalise on maximising your points. Because I tell you now, Red Bull are going to be quietly confident, and well, they're not quietly confident, they're openly confident about the updates, and Max is definitely going to have the grip between his teeth in the upcoming races and going to be looking to close that gap down on Piastri, which now currently sits at less than a race win difference, 22. We know Max can go on a streak of race wins. He's done it before, don't rule him out again. And of course, Lando may be feeling a bit more confident after this weekend as well, that he got the better of his teammate. Yes, they was on different tyres, different age strength tyres, but still, it's the little wins that matter. It's the little wins that can build confidence and need that step forward that you need just to stand up a bit taller. And that may be what Norris got from overtaking Piastri there and just maybe executing his race overall better than his Australian teammate. But let me know what you think in the comments below. It's just what a pleasant surprise it was. My expectations were low for the race, and I was pleasantly surprised. We got a lot more overtaking. Long may it continue. Pirelli, bring a step softer tyres to every single race, will you? Because we're more likely to have better racing.